What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 35 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Friday, December 27th, 2024. I'm your host, Zach Malamud. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays this week. It's been a long week. Before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off with a game preview as the New York Knicks are in action tonight. They're down in Orlando for the third time in 11 games this December. The Knicks will take on the Orlando Magic, and the Magic obviously are dealing with all those injury problems that just continue to pile up for them. Obviously, you look at the top guys in Paolo Banchero as well as Franz Wagner, but they also lost Mo Wagner, who had an all-time day against the Knicks the last time these two teams met on December 15th in a 100-91 win for the New York Knicks. Mo Wagner in that game was electric. He's going to be out for the season now with a torn right ACL. And I mean, the injuries just continue to pile up for Orlando. And for that reason, the Knicks come into this game as 7.5-point favorites, total sitting at 212.5. As for the Knicks on the other side, they have been cruising lately. Plenty of wins to go around, and obviously versus Orlando, they got a couple so far this season, but it's 5 straight wins for the New York Knicks. Since that win against Orlando on December 15th, they have been absolutely cruising, and you could say maybe the NBA Cup loss to Atlanta on December 11th really woke this team up and told them, yeah, well, you got to handle your own business, figure out what you can do to win games rather than focusing really on the other team and their antics and everything. Obviously, all the Atlanta noise that came in after that game did not really make the Knicks too happy. And Jalen Brunson said it himself, if they don't want them to celebrate on their court like that, you might as well win the game and stop them from doing that. So the Knicks have taken that really personally, I think, in the last couple of weeks, and 5 straight wins on the spin. And I think when you look at this game in Orlando, the Knicks should handle business once again based on the injuries to the Magic. The Magic, credit to them. I mean, they're still sitting at 19-13. They are 3-4 since the loss of Franz Wagner. Paolo Banchero has been out for over a month, so they've kind of had to deal with that for a little bit. But they've had Franz Wagner to rely on, and he's been out as well. And a 3-4 record in the end without your 2 best players, plus a couple more injuries here and there, you'd say it's pretty good for Orlando right now, and they're staying put in the middle of that Eastern Conference. So credit to them. They've been unbelievable on their home floor, and that's been, I think, the difference for them. 12-3 on their home floor this season, and credit to them for making the Kia Center just a really tough environment and a tough place to play. So it's not going to be an easy one for the Knicks. Obviously, you look at that game a couple weeks ago, 100-91 on December 15th. The Magic did not make it easy for the Knicks in the end. I mentioned Mo Wagner had a great game, 32 points in that one, and 10 of 15 from the field. Jalen Suggs with 8 assists. So they have guys who can really step up. Of course, the injury to Mo Wagner now, though, will definitely hurt the Magic in this one, and it should be a cruise, I would say, for the New York Knicks down in Orlando tonight. But make sure you tune in 7 o'clock as the Knicks take on the Magic. Knicks are 7.5-point favorites coming into this one and sit at 20-10 on a 5-game win streak in the Eastern Conference of the NBA. Switching gears to the NFL, both New York teams in action this weekend. Let's start it off with the 4-11 New York Jets traveling to Buffalo to take on the 12-3 Buffalo Bills in Orchard Park. And Sunday, 1 o'clock, this one is a monster spread for the Buffalo Bills. 9.5 it sits at as the Bills look to clinch the 2 seed in the AFC for their playoff run. And the total sitting at 46.5. I think when you look at this game for the Jets, it's really about peppering Garrett Wilson. Obviously, the comments of this last week and the frustration that's been shown by the Jets star wide receiver. And obviously, Devontae Adams has come in and I feel like taken over that target share from Aaron Rodgers, where it was Garrett Wilson and they were trying to get him the ball a lot. And obviously, I would say the numbers are still there in terms of Wilson's overall season. it's just been, I feel like the last couple of games, he hasn't gotten the same target share, and it's been favoring Devontae Adams. When you look at it in the end, the relationship between Rodgers and Adams, you really can't fault Rodgers in the end for throwing his guy the ball. He obviously has that partnership with Adams for such a long time that it's pretty easy for him to just chuck the ball up there and hope Adams goes and gets it. They're on that same page. So I think Wilson obviously will want more targets and want to be involved more, but you got two wide receivers there for a reason, and multiple guys wanting the ball. Obviously, the running backs as well out of the backfield. Breece Hall has not gotten too many touches, and I feel like he should be more frustrated this season than a guy like Garrett Wilson. So I think when you look at that, this Jets offense really just, they got a lot of mouths to feed, and that's the problem with so many mouths to feed. You're going to have guys angry in the locker room and really not on the same page with their quarterback. So that's something I think the Jets need to figure out this Sunday against Buffalo. But as for the Bills, I said it, they're looking to clinch that 2 seed in the AFC, and a big game for them, and 10-point favorites almost. They should handle business here against the New York Jets. And in Orchard Park, I think the defense of the Buffalo Bills really wakes up behind that home crowd and in Bills Mafia. So I think when you look at this game overall, it should be a Buffalo win in the end, and the Jets should probably be sitting at 4-12. As for Jets fans looking for a draft pick right now, you kind of need some more teams to lose rather than just the Jets losing in the end. I think when you look at the Panthers and some of those other teams, the Bears are in there. Those teams really need to lose more so than the Jets just losing to Buffalo. That's not going to mean too much. So you're rooting for some of those teams to win games in the end. Of course, you saw the Bears end up losing last night, so that doesn't help the Jets in the end. But for the draft pick crowd that is looking for that high enough pick, you definitely need a little bit of help as the Jets try and move closer to a draft pick, it seems. But it would be so shocking and so not shocking, excuse me, in the end for the Jets to win one of these last two games, whether it's at Buffalo or home to Miami on the last day of the season. So we'll see what happens. But the 4-11 Jets, 12-3 Bills, Sunday, 1 o'clock. Tune in to that one. On the other side of New York, though, it's going to be the New York Giants taking on the Indianapolis Colts Sunday at 1 o'clock. Giants sit at the basement of the NFL and in the lone spot for the number 1 pick overall. And that made Giants fans very happy, some of them. There's others that still want to win games and show some fight from this team and see some fight from this team. They haven't got it really all season long. And then when you talk about how they've played on their home field, yikes, it's not a great sign for Giants fans. They don't have a win this season at home. Their 2 wins have been on the road this season. It's really tough to watch for the Giants, and they've been really, really poor recently. And obviously last week against Atlanta, it was just a disaster throughout. The Atlanta offense didn't move too well in the end. I think Penix, in his first NFL game, would have said he probably needed some more work and really needed to figure things out more. He had no touchdowns and only had a pick in that game. Had some completions and, yes, some yards, but really no touchdowns in the end. Those were to Bijan Robinson, as well as the defense of the Atlanta Falcons, as Drew Lock threw 2 pick sixes in the end for the Giants. So it's really a season to forget. And obviously the Giants, if they get the number 1 pick, there's going to be excitement from the Giants fans to figure out maybe a new quarterback and what the situation is going to be for next season. But obviously I talk about it week after week, and the question in the end is who's going to be the general manager and who's going to be the coach. Is it still going to be Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll? Are they going to get another chance? Or is John Mara going to say, yeah, enough of this? This end of season run has been so brutal that you don't deserve to really have this job next season. So I think that's going to be the question in the end and the biggest storyline for the Giants. But they could get the number 1 pick. It would also be pretty classic if the Giants found a way to screw this one up, whether they beat the Colts for their first home win of the season, a Colts team that's fighting to stick around in the AFC playoff picture. Not a great chance they have, but we'll see what happens. And then they have on the road on the last day of the season facing their really nemesis now, it seems, in Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia Eagles. And that one, I feel like, is going to come down to whether the Eagles are playing their guys or not. If they're playing their guys in terms of seeding and everything in the NFC, then it's going to be a long day for the Giants. Then if they don't, and you got some backups, I still think the Eagles will win that game because I do think the Eagles backups really still have the advantage over the Giants, but could be a little bit closer than Giant fans that want that number one pick are really hoping for. So should be interesting these last couple weeks. But as for this game against Indianapolis, a 7.5-point spread, total sitting at 40.5 in favor of Indianapolis. So we'll see what happens there. It should end up being a Colts win, but could the Giants pull off a surprise here? It would not really be a surprise in the end and would just be so classic for the Giants to do so. But the 7-8 Colts taking on the 2-13 Giants at MetLife Stadium Sunday, 1 o'clock. Tune into that one. And to finish things off today, it's another edition of a Sunday football preview. If you're new to this, each week I'll pick 2 to 3 of the top games across the NFL slate and share my thoughts on them. And we have a great slate this Sunday. One of the games I have of the 2 is the 11-4 Packers traveling up to Minnesota to take on the 13-2 Minnesota Vikings. What a battle we have. 4:25 on Sunday, and what a battle it is in the NFC North as these two teams still fight for seeding, and obviously a lot still on the line. And the Vikings come into this game as 1-point favorites, total sitting at 48.5. And if this game could really be any closer in terms of a spread, it is here, as I think in the end, Vegas is giving the Packers a bit of an advantage here and saying, well, both these teams are red hot right now. Minnesota's on an 8-game winning streak since those 2 losses midseason to the Lions and the Rams. And the Packers themselves have won 5 of their last 6 and 9 of their last 11. They are on fire right now, both of these teams. And what a battle it is. But they're also saying, well, the Packers defense has really stepped up since the last time these two teams met. A very close battle. All the way earlier in the season between these two teams, and it was Minnesota who got the edge 31-29, and the Packers fell to 2-2, and Minnesota, they started that season red hot 4-0 at that point. So when you look at it, I think the Packers do maybe have a bit of an advantage here based on a couple injuries on the defensive side to the Minnesota Vikings, and then the Packers just really cruising right now and getting through really every team except for the Detroit Lions, but that's not easy for anybody to do. And in the end, I think this one's going to be a very close game, but I will give the Packers the edge. I think they cover that 1-point spread, end up winning the game, if you want to say that. I think in the end, though, the Packers have the advantage and are feeling the better of the two teams. And I think Minnesota, you may want to lose right now and just take the edge just a bit off you on that 8-game win streak. I feel like when you go into the playoffs on a huge win streak, all the pressure is really on you. Well, you're playing the best right now, so you should win. I don't think Minnesota going up against those top teams in the NFC and those tough teams against the NFC opponents, especially in the wild card that they're going to sneak into most likely based on Detroit probably going to win the division if they don't end up losing one of the last 2 games. I think all the pressure would be on the Vikings in the wild card to say, yeah, well, we better win now because we're feeling really good and we're the top team in the wild card, and all the storylines will be on Minnesota. I think they probably would want to lose one of these last 2 games, and you never want to lose, but probably for their confidence, I would say that they can really take a step back and then head into the playoffs with a loss and over that winning streak and everything about it. But I'll give the Packers the win here, and the total sitting at 48.5. Most of these games between NFC North opponents really just go back and forth, and I feel like the total always is really high in the end, and points are put up, and the defenses really struggle to handle these powerful offenses. And for that reason, I'm going to take the over here. 48.5, I would say the Packers and the Vikings combined for over that. And we'll see what happens. This one should be a fantastic game. 4:25 on Sunday. The 11-4 Packers taking on the 13-2 Vikings in Minnesota. Make sure you tune into that one, and make sure you tune into the Sunday night game, because this one is a real dandy. The 8:20 on Sunday night. It's going to be the 8-7 Atlanta Falcons with Michael Penix at quarterback, taking on Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders, who sit at 10-5 on the year. And when it comes down to it, the Commanders are fighting for a wild card spot and should end up getting a wild card spot. Obviously, the Eagles are going to win that division, and if they haven't secured it already, they will, either this week or next week. So that's going to be a big one for the Commanders to secure that wild card spot and secure their spot in the NFC playoffs this year. As for the Falcons, they're in a dogfight right now in the NFC South with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One team wins and the other team wins. One team loses and then the other team loses too. So I think when you look at this game for Atlanta, it's absolutely massive that they come out with a win. I just don't think they will. They're on the road. It's in Washington, and the Commanders at 4.5-point favorites, total sitting at 47.5. I'm going to take the Commanders to win this one, and 4.5 is, a bit of an iffy spread, and it could be a bit of a closer game, but I do think the Commanders have the better offense here. They have the home crowd behind them, plus you got a young quarterback on the other side in Michael Penix Jr. Yes, they have a young quarterback of their own, but in terms of experience and so far this season, Jaden Daniels has proven that he looks like a third-year quarterback right now in the NFL. Michael Penix Jr. just got started his first game last week against the Giants, as talked about before. This one is a big one for Penix to really step up and get the passing offense going. Obviously, he had yards last week and got some guys going, but just the touchdowns were not there. Kyle Pitts ended up bobbling the throw, and it fell into the hands of a Giants corner, where it ended up being an interception for Penix, and that was charged to him in the end. But no touchdowns and an interception, not a great line to start your NFL career, and he needs some work, and obviously that'll take some time, but I don't think it's going to come right away on the road against this tough Commanders team that's been in the playoff hunt all season long. So I'll pick the Commanders to cover the 4.5. As for the total, 47.5, how can I not pick the over with these two offenses? Full of power and really with how these defenses have played. Yes, Washington's been a bit better of late. They had a couple of games here and there where they started to figure things out. However, there were other games in that span where they just got blown the doors off them in terms of the opposing offense just going to town. So I think in the end, Washington wins this one. This one goes over. This one should be a great game, though. Tune into this one, 8:20 on Sunday Night Football. The 8-7 Falcons traveling to Washington to take on the 10-5 Commanders. Should be a great slate for the NFL this weekend. Make sure to tune into all of those games and enjoy those. But that'll do it for episode 35 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malamud. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, and talk to you all on Monday.